Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll continue our reading from Canto 7, The Science of God. Chapter number 7 we will read today. It's from the Brilliant as the Sun, retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhete girim yat kripatamam vande shigurum din tarinam paramananda madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Chapter 7. What Prahlad learned in the womb. Prahlad looked at his friends' quizzical expressions. Maybe they were frightened he was laying a trap for them. After all, he was Hiranyakashipu's son. Listen and I will explain how I became a devotee, he said. I heard this history from my spiritual master, Narad Muni. Indra sat on his magnificent throne. On either side sat Surya, Chandra, Vayu and Agni. I did not understand it, said Indra. For a long time, those two sons of Kashyap caused us nothing but trouble. I would have thought that after Hiranyakashipu's death, his brother would have wreaked havoc in the universe. But things have been peaceful for years now. There's been no sign of Hiranyakashipu. I can't understand why. Oh, I know why, said Surya. He's gone to Mandarachal mountain to perform severe austerities. Really, said Indra, maybe we should wipe out other demons before he comes back. I don't think he'll be back, said Vayu with a laugh. What do you mean? Let's go to Mandarachal and you can see for yourself. The gods left at once. Arriving at the great mountain, Indra looked around but could not see Hiranyakashipu anywhere. He turned to Vayu. Where is he? Vayu pointed to a giant anthill. He's been buried under that for years. An anthill? Ants can devour even great serpents, exclaimed Indra. There is no way he can survive such an ordeal. That's what I was thinking, said Vayu. Surya smiled. He inflicted much misery on others. Now the reaction to his sins has destroyed him. I still think we should wipe out the other demons before another becomes too powerful, said Indra. The other gods voiced their agreement. Yes, let's finish them once and for all, said Vayu. Returning to Amravati, Indra rallied his forces and advanced on the demon cities. Fight boldly, he told the other gods. In the absence of their leader, the demons will be weak. Blowing their conches, the celestial forces descended on the Daitya barracks, taken by surprise and struck with terror because of the unprecedented ferocity of the gods' attack. The demons fled. Abandoning their homes, wives, children, and properties, they scattered in all directions. As the last day of the death, their soldiers disappeared into the distance. The gods shook their weapons in the air and cheered. Come, said Indra, let us see what booty they have left behind. Only women now occupied Hiranyakashipu's palace, so when the gods marched in, they confiscated all his riches with no resistance. Storming from room to room in the elation of victory, they came upon Hiranyakashipu's heavily pregnant wife, Kayadhu. She stood up regally and chastised them. These are the women's quarters. You have no right to enter. Be gone with you. Indra barked, Be quiet, woman. Turning to the other gods, he ordered, Arrest her. Crying like an osprey, Kayadhu tried to escape, but Surya and Chandra seized her by each arm and forcibly dragged her from her apartment. Hearing the commotion, the great sage Narad, travelling nearby, came there and saw the distraught Kayadhu being roughly pulled onto Indra's chariot. She was calling out piteously, Please help. Please help me, someone save me. Narad ran toward her, rebuking Indra, great king of the gods. Release this sinless lady. She is the wife of another and does not deserve to be so mistreated. Greetings to you, great sage, called back Indra. We will not harm this woman. She is carrying Hiranyakashipu's child. Once he is born, we will release her. What do you plan to do with her child? Asked Narad. Kill him, of course, said Indra. We need no more of Hiranyakashipu's mischief in the universe. Narad smiled. My dear son, you cannot kill this child. He is a great devotee of Vishnu, completely faultless and and without sin. Fully trusting, Narad Indra leapt down from his chariot and offered Kayadu his outstretched hand. Forgive us, dear queen. Please allow me to assist you down. All the other gods also descended from their mounts and respectfully circumambulated Kayadu and her unborn child. Still shaken by her ordeal, Kayadu watched in bewilderment as they thanked Narad and departed. Narad looked around to see if he could spot any of her aides or maidservants. The palace was deserted. Everyone had fled into the surrounding woods. Meanwhile, Kayadu had sunk to the ground and was weeping uncontrollably. Narad spoke in a soothing voice, "My dear child, you have nothing to fear. They have gone." Kayadu sobbed. "All the palace guards have fled. There is no one here to protect me. I feel so vulnerable and scared." "Come, child," said Narad kindly. "If you wish, you may stay at my ashram until your husband returns. You will be safe there." Prahlad's friends sat in silence, enthralled by his story. Prahlad looked at them and smiled. "So that is how my mother ended up at Narad's ashram until my father returned." "Is that where you were born?" asked a boy. Prahlad shook his head. "Oh no, she would not give birth to me until after my father's return." "What did she do there?" "She must have been depressed," said another boy. "She was happy enough. She had much respect and gratitude for Narad, and she enjoyed serving him in whatever way she could. Narad instructed her in religion and transcendental knowledge. He taught her Bhagavad Dharma. I also heard those instructions while I was in her womb. That's how I learned about devotional service to Narayan." So Prahlad Maharaj got all the instructions before birth along with his mother. "Is your mother Narayan's devotee now, like you?" asked Narad. "Sadly, no, she could not understand most of what Narad said, and even that what she understood she has forgotten all after all these years." Someone asked, "Then how come you understood and remembered? After all, you were not even born at that time." Prahlad's eyes welled with tears. "The great sage Narad blessed me, and thus I could both understand and remember his instructions. He never blessed us. So how will we understand Bhagavad Dharma asked one boy. Prahlad raised his right hand in blessing. "My dear friends, I bless you to also receive Narad's mercy, which flows through me by the grace of great devotees. Even women and children can understand the difference between matter and spirit." A boy asked, "What is that difference?" Prahlad said, "The boy undergoes 6 changes. It is born, stays for a while, grows, changes, dwindles, then dies. The soul within the body never changes." The boy frowned. "If the body changes, how does the soul not also change?" Prahlad pointed at the fruit orchard on the school grounds. "See those trees? Their fruits and flowers appear, grow and dwindle with seasonal changes, then disappear, but the tree does not change. It stays the same throughout. It's like that with the soul and the different bodies it inhabits." "What is the soul within the body?" said another boy. "There are 2 souls within each body," said Prahlad. "One is the small individual soul who resides in only one body. The other is a super soul who lives in every body. Both are spiritual, but the super soul is infinite and the individual soul is infinitesimal. Neither is born, dies, nor deteriorates, nor are they affected by any material condition. These 2 souls are conscious of the body they inhabit, and they are the foundation and shelter of everything." An older boy said, "Is it not the body that is the shelter of these souls?" "No, it may seem that way, but in truth, the material body depends on the 2 souls' presence for its existence. Unlike the material body, neither of them ever changes. The supersoul is self-illuminated, the ultimate cause of all existence, and he permeates everything." "What does self-illuminated means?" asked the boy. "It means that we can only know him when he reveals him. Some say the individual soul is also self-revealing because its existence in the body is self-evident. Since these 2 souls are distinct from matter, they are never affected by it. By meditating on the qualities, we will attain spiritual perfection." and then we will see we have nothing to do with the matter. What exactly is matter? Asked another boy. It comprises 8 of the Lord's separated energies plus the 3 modes of nature and 16 transformations of these. With all these, the soul sits as an observer. All the great spiritual teachers say these material energies condition the soul. Several voices spoke at once. What are the separated energies? What do you mean by separated? What are the 3 modes? What are the 16 transformations? Prahlad put up both his hands. Patience, patience, I will answer your questions one at a time. The separated energies are Prakriti, Mahatattva, Ahankar, and the 5 matras. From the interaction and transformation of these come the 3 modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. These further interact to produce the 11 senses and 5 gross materials. Elements are referred to as the 16 transformations. Boys again began to speak, but Prahlad again held up his hands. Let me finish answering what you have already asked before you ask any more questions. One of you asked what I mean by separated. That was me, called out an older boy. I shall explain. Take milk, for example. It is the separated energy of the cow. It comes from the cow's body, but it is not the cow. That's what I mean by separated energy, the boy said. So the separated energies come from Narayan, but they are not him. Prahlad said, or to be more precise, they are both Narayan and not Narayan simultaneously. Is that clear? I think so, said the boy, rubbing his chin. I still don't understand what the separated energies are, said the boy who had asked that question. What is Prakriti, Mahatattva, Ahankar, and the 5 tanmatras? Prakriti means nature or energy. The Lord has 2 types of nature, superior and inferior. The superior nature is spiritual and the inferior nature causes material existence. At first, the material energy is inert. She has no independent power to do anything, but when the Lord glances at her, she transforms into the Mahat Tattva. Which is empowered to create the cosmic manifestation. It's a little complicated, but the essence is that all these different separated energies of the Lord combine to create the material cosmos. I think we are getting the idea, said one boy. It is complicated, but I think you're trying to help us understand that these different energies of Narayan make up our bodies. Exactly, said Prahlad. Well put. Since you are grasping it so well, I will explain more. Each of us has 2 material bodies. The gross one we see and a subtle one. The gross body comprises earth, water, air, fire and ether. The subtle one, mind, intelligence and ahankar or false ego. The spirit soul sits within these 2 bodies. Those expert in spiritual science can distinguish the soul from the gross and subtle bodies by careful analysis. One boy asked how they did this. It's possible for those who are sense-controlled and philosophically astute. For example, they meditate on the difference between the soul and the body by meditating on the bodily limbs and reflecting on how the limb differs from them. Try it with me. Touch your head. Is your head you? No, of course not. We never said I head. We said my head. So there is difference between me and my head. By such intelligence, they become purified of false identification with the gross body. What is the intelligence? Asked one boy. Intelligence operates in the realms of wakefulness, dreaming and deep sleep. The supersoul controls these states as well as intelligence. The soul differs from these just as aromas are distinct from the air which carries them. The difference is perceptible only when the supersoul guides our intelligence. The Mundak Upanishad says that when the devotee sees the Supreme Person by his meditation or sees the Lord face to face, he understands everything within the universe. Nothing is unknown to him. Everything within the material world fully manifests to a devotee who has seen the Lord. Only such a devotee can see the difference between the soul and intelligence in wakefulness, dreams, and deep sleep. These states are all the results of past works and are in the modes of nature, but the soul is not. Material intelligence keeps one bound in worldly existence, which is temporary and full of miseries. It forces us to continue in this undesirable nightmare of material life for as long as you forget Narayan. There was quiet for a while as the boys reflected on Prahlad's words. Then one of the older boys murmured, "I want to wake up. I don't like this nightmare. I don't want to suffer anymore." "Me neither," said others. "That is why, my dear friends, I urge you to connect with Krishna. Such connection will destroy the ignorance that keeps your intelligence fixed in material wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep." Many voices called out, asking how they could connect with Krishna. Prahlad said, "There are many methods for purifying the intelligence, but Krishna teaches us the best way. By this process, we develop our love for him." "Teach it to us," Prahlad said. Several boys. "First, we must accept the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master and serve him with great devotion and faith. We must hear about and glorify Krishna in association with saintly devotees. Meditate on his teachings and worship him in the deity form. We should also treat every living entity with consideration, remembering that the Supreme Lord dwells in every material body, even those of animals and lower species." One boy said, "Do you mean everyone is God?" "No, as I explained, there are two souls in each body, the individual soul and the super soul. We are the individual soul, but the super soul is alongside us within our respective bodies. So, for example, I should not offend you because I should remember that the super soul also resides in your body. If I do all this, will I become like you? Will I also love Krishna and always be happy?" asked one boy. Prahlad smiled. "First, we must conquer the enemies within us." "We have enemies within us," exclaimed one boy. "Oh yes, unfortunately we do. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. Once we defeat these enemies, our love for Krishna will manifest." An older boy said, "How can we tell if we actually love Krishna or we just think we love him?" "Well," said Prahlad, "the first and most important symptom is to control our senses. When such a liberated person hears about Krishna and his incarnations, he experiences ecstatic symptoms. What are they? The usual symptoms are that the bodily hairs stand on one end, tears fall from eyes, and the voice falters. Sometimes the person dances uninhibitedly, sings loudly, or shouts. These are all considered expressions of transcendental joy." "That's what my dad does when he's drunk. He dances wildly down the streets, then bursts into the house, shouting and singing loudly," remarked one boy. "This kind of singing is different," said Prahlad with a laugh. "One who loves Krishna sings or loudly proclaims his names and glories. Sometimes he may sit in quiet meditation or offer his respects to everyone, considering them Krishna's devotees. Then, careless of social etiquette, he will suddenly cry out, 'Hare Krishna,' or 'O my Lord, O my Master of the universe.' When the devotee is thus completely purified of all material contamination, he realizes his eternal relationship with Krishna, either as a servant, friend, parent, or conjugal lover. His material body and his mind becomes spiritualized by being absorbed in his relationship." "What does that mean?" asked a boy. "Have you ever seen a horseshoe being made?" asked Prahlad. Half a dozen boys put up their hands. "Have you noticed what happens to the horseshoe once it is placed in the furnace for a while? It gets really hot. Does it look like metal anymore? It's red like fire. What happens if you touch it to something? It will burn it. I have seen things burst into flames." "So," said Prahlad, "the metal now looks and acts more like fire." All the boys nodded. "That's what happens to the pure devotees," said Prahlad. "Their material bodies now act like spiritual bodies. That's what I mean by spiritualized. When this happens, the devotee directly meets Krishna and comes under his protection." I repeat that. Their material bodies now acts like spiritual bodies. That's what I mean by spiritualized. When this happens, the devotee directly meets Krishna and comes under his direct under his protection. Does that mean he's always happy? Oh yes, he experiences ecstasy, said Prahlad. A boy who had been quiet now spoke. My dad says this material world is a place of suffering and that any intelligent person will try to get out. He does Ashtang Yoga because he says he will eventually merge into the Brahman, where he will be happy and not have to return. Your father is very intelligent to want to escape the repetition of birth and death. It's also true that there is some happiness in the Brahman, but if we don't go further and connect with the Lord, then there is always the possibility we'll fall back down again into material existence. However, once we establish our eternal loving relationship with Krishna, either as his servant, friend, parent, or beloved, our happiness is so complete that we will not fall again into material existence. Therefore, my dear friends, if you desire everlasting joy, please immediately start worshipping the Lord in your heart. The wonderful thing is, it is so easy to worship Krishna like space. He exists everywhere, including in our hearts. We can easily contact him. Indeed, as soon as you hear about him, you immediately connect with him and you achieve the same result of glorifying, remembering, or serving him. The path to suffering sensual gratification is fraught with difficulties. You must work so hard to procure money to visit clubs, restaurants, casinos, bars, etc. Why should we cultivate addictions that are difficult to satisfy and simply increase our suffering when the path to happiness, devotional service, is so easy and trouble-free? Many of the boys nodded in agreement. They had seen their parents drunk or heard their mothers cry because their fathers were unfaithful or gambling away their money, and many of their parents suffered from health issues because of eating and drinking to excess. They did not want to end up like that. Some boys were still doubtful. One among them, an older boy who had so far been silent, said, "Look, I know some of your fathers get into this stuff, but my dad is a responsible guy. He and my mom are happy together." Another boy voiced agreement. "Yeah, my dad works hard so that he can enjoy living in a beautiful home. We go on holidays. We can afford cows, horses, and elephants. We have a good life. My mom is happy. She can afford nice clothes. She regularly goes to the hairdressers and throws elegant parties. But we are not suffering. We would not have such a good life if my dad didn't work long hours." Several of the boys said, "I agree." Prahlad shook his head slowly. "Unfortunately, my dear friend, your father's wealth, beautiful wife, children, house, domestic animals, and all the enjoyable opportunities he provides are flickering. By an unexpected turn of events, he could lose all of them. Certainly he will die one day and then he will lose everything he has worked so hard for." "Well, you will die too, Prahlad. True, my body will die, but I know I'm not the body. I am an eternal soul. So are each of you. Knowing that I'm eternal, I don't think working for temporary material gains is sensible. Do you?" The leader of the dissenting boys said, "My dad is smart. He invests some of his wealth to pay for Vedic sacrifices so that after death he will go to a higher planet where he will enjoy an even better standard of life. And he's taught me to do the same. That's sensible, don't you think so?" The boy sat back with a smirk. Prahlad nodded and gave the boy a friendly smile. "Your father is well versed in the Vedas. He sure is." "And of course," said Prahlad, "you are right in saying that the Vedas enjoin performing different sacrifices to elevate oneself to the heavenly planets after death." The boy looked around at the others with a self-satisfied grin as if to say, "I told you so." Prahlad said, "However, even life in heaven is not without problems. They too suffer. Ask any gods and they will tell you how much they are suffering at my father's hands. Even if you are there during a trouble-free period, life is also temporary. Therefore, I say it's not the goal we should aspire for. Connecting with Krishna has no disadvantages. Everyone who has gone to him has enjoyed everlasting, unadulterated happiness. That's why, my dear friends, I urge you to worship him with great devotion." The dissenting boys glanced at one another. Prahlad seemed to have all the answers, but his points were good. They turned back to him as he continued. Many seemingly intelligent people work for individual and collective economic development but are continually frustrated. Plans for material happiness result in suffering both in this life and the next. The Vedas testified that this is inevitable. Prahlad spoke kindly. There was no hint of pride in his voice. He truly wanted to help all his school friends be happy. It's natural that every conditioned soul wants to increase their happiness and decrease suffering. Everyone acts with this aim. Unfortunately, people do not realize that the way to be happy is by not focusing on our pleasures. Pleasure, indeed, the pursuit of our selfish happiness, causes our distress. How can that be? Asked a dissenting boy. Well, said Prahlad, we make so many plans and work hard to secure a comfortable situation for our body, but we forget that ultimately our bodies belong to others. The boy frowned. To others? How? Consider this, said Prahlad. When we die, either vultures, wild dogs, or worms will eat our body. So really our body belongs to them. After death, we must take another body and again struggle to make the body comfortable. Like this, we waste our time trying futilely to acquire paraphernalia to comfort one body after another. Since our bodies will become either stool or earth, what is the cause of all this endeavor? How will our wives, mansions, treasury, relatives, servants, friends, animals, or even kingdom and ministers help us at death? They too will rot away and perish. They all seem very important when the body exists, but they lose all value soon as it is destroyed. Only the ignorant person who foolishly thinks he is a temporary body desires such material possessions. By investing our time and energy in serving Krishna, we can experience an ocean of eternal bliss. Therefore, my dear friends, I urge you not to be attached to temporary things. Instead, awaken your relationship with Krishna and become eternally happy. I'm not convinced, objected the dissenting boy. By working hard, we can be happy during each life. That is surely desirable. Other boys murmured in agreement. My dear friends, you are sons of materialists. Please consider how our present body results from our materialistic work in a previous life. The work you do in this life to secure material pleasure will also cause your rebirth in another body after death. Since you keep working for the satisfaction of your body, you must keep taking birth. Please tell me then what is really in your interest. When you could use this life to endure repeated birth and death, is it wise to neglect your spiritual development and continue in this cycle? The Vedas say by performing our religious duties, we can enjoy wealth, sensual gratification, and liberation, replied the boy. What's wrong with that? Success in anything depends on Krishna's sanction, said Prahlad. Therefore, my dear friends, knowing that the results depend on him, not on your efforts, following his devotees' examples and execute your duties for his satisfaction. We are all very dear to him and he to us because his spiritual energy manifests us and his material energy our body. Our bodies. Not only is he most affectionate toward us, but he is also the supreme controller. The boy retorted, he may love you, but my dad says he hates our race. Prahlad shook his head. Krishna loves everyone regardless of their race, and he will deliver anyone who renders him devotional service. Everyone can become as dear to him as my spiritual master and I am. For Krishna to accept us, objected boy, he will have to become Brahmins like you and your spiritual master. That will not happen in my caste. I'm a warrior of the Daitya race. My family has fought the gods for generations. Krishna hates my type. Prahlad placed his hand on the boy's arm. You do not understand Krishna. He turned and addressed all the boys. My dear friends, it does not matter that we are Daityas or that you are warriors or merchants or anything. We do not have to be Brahmins or gods, learned in the Vedas, or even well-mannered. None of these matter to Krishna. He does not even mind if we are uncharitable, not austere, do not perform Vedic sacrifice, or are not so clean. These are not the things that attract Krishna. He just wants our unmotivated love. Nothing else matters to him. To this exchange now joined in how can we best please him, Prahlad applauded the question and said, those who know that the devotional service is the only way to be happy and will naturally want to share it with others. They will re-emphasize with their sufferings and want to help just as they have been. Prahlad applauded the question and said, those who know that the devotional service is the only way to be happy will naturally want to share it with others. They will emphasize with their suffering and want to help them just as they have been helped. This supreme welfare work very much pleases the Lord. A younger boy said, who should we try to help? Can anyone take to devotional service? Prahlad said, my dear friend, please be assured that no living entity is barred from devotion to Krishna. By taking shelter of Krishna's pure devotee, anyone can attain eternal spiritual life of bliss. Krishna is the source of everything, and by serving him, you will see him everywhere. This is the highest goal of human life. So this was such beautiful words coming from Prahlad to his friends about devotional service. And we can just imagine how he cleared the doubts of his friends who were very young like him. And the final thing has been said, that devotional service is for everyone. Krishna is the source of everything, and by serving him, we can see him everywhere. And Krishna is the highest goal of life. So thank you for joining. Hare Tat Sat, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhaktaraj Prahlad ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.